Once, there was a monastery that had fallen upon hard times. Some of the younger monks had left in dissatisfaction, and no new men were joining. There were but a handful of monks and their leader, the abbot, remaining. They began fighting among themselves, each blaming the hard times on the faults and failings of the other. One day, a traveling rabbi stopped at the monastery for a night's rest. He ate and prayed alongside the other monks. The next day, as the rabbi prepared to continue on his journey, the abbot drew him aside. He told him of the problems of the monastery and asked him for his observations and for some advice to share with the monks. Upon hearing the abbot's woes, the rabbi was quiet for some time. "Cannot you give me some advice to help my monastery to thrive again?" the abbot begged.
"Your monks will not listen to my advice," the rabbi replied. There we go, there's some sound. "But perhaps they would benefit from an observation. The Messiah dwells among you here at the monastery." "One of us?" asked the abbot, astonished. "Which one?" "Oh, that I cannot say," he answered. "Share this with your brothers, and in time it shall be revealed to you." The abbot thanked him and sent him on his way. He then gathered the monks together, who listened in amazement to the news. "One of us? But who?" each one asked aloud. Then to themselves they wondered, "It couldn't be Brother Robert, could it? Surely not Brother Henry, but there are times when... Not the youngest. Well, maybe. The abbot himself? Could it be me?" Soon things began to change at the monastery as each began to see the Messiah in the other and to hear the Messiah's words in each word spoken. Soon people began to wander back to the monastery, and in time new men joined and the monastery thrived. I love this story because it shows the power of an idea without needing to take significant action. In this day and age of consultants and self-help books and 5 steps to greater happiness and 6 commitments for a healthier relationship and 7 habits for highly effective people, a simple idea changed and transformed their community. And best of all, that idea that the Messiah might be among them, that idea caused the very transformation in people's behavior that Jesus modeled in his life and in his teachings. Just the idea that the Messiah might be among them was enough of a reminder of what the monks truly valued to help them change their behavior and start relating to each other in a more loving manner. The thing was, the monks already had those values. It wasn't like the abbot went and changed the teachings or the moral system in his community. It wasn't like he went around constantly reminding people, "Hey, you need to treat each other better," or "Hey, you need to be more caring in your relationships with each other." He didn't even ask them to pray more, or to meditate more, or to spend days fasting in an attempt to improve themselves. Just as they were, with beliefs and values they already held, they were able to transform their community, all based on one motivating idea. My question for all of us, then, is what kind of reminder would it take in our own lives to help us shift into better living our values? What would motivate you to make that transformation? What would it mean if the Messiah were among us? As we think about our different answers to that question, I have a challenge for us. The challenge is to take responsibility. Here's what I mean by that. Often, when talking with others about the difficulties facing our country right now, I've said the following. I believe that the political system in this country is broken, and that people with money and power have far too much influence over politicians, Democrats and Republicans alike. We need to do something about that. Now notice the switch I made in pronouns. I started by saying, I think the political system is broken, and ended with, we need to do something about that. There is something very different about saying, I think the political system is broken, and I need to do something about that. Switching to I can actually be empowering. We can forget sometimes, when we are so often reminded of how little power we have in the big scheme of our culture and our country, that we do, in fact, have power. What we do, what you do, what I do, it does make a difference. Just like the monks in the story, our attitude towards each other, how we choose to treat one another, can and does have a profound effect on how we experience the world. There's a bus driver in New York City who makes her world a better place. Every person who gets on her bus is greeted with a genuine smile and an authentically asked, "Hello, how are you doing today?" She knows her regular passengers well and always has a kind word or a caring question for people when they get on. She asks about their kids or their sick aunt. She also sings under her breath as she drives along each day. She treats each and every person as if the Messiah were among us. In a circumstance in which many of us would not, she brings joy into the world, day in and day out. It is just a few minutes out of their day on their way somewhere else, but people almost always get off that woman's bus feeling a little bit better about themselves and their day. Their world, and the world in general, has changed a little bit for the better. This bus driver, she did not wait for someone else to make her day-to-day life a happier place. She didn't sit around complaining about how rude and self-centered some of her passengers could be. She owned her power. She claimed her I, and she made her corner of the world a better place. Each and every one of us has that power. We often don't claim it, but we have it. We each drive the buses of our lives every day, and we can have an impact on what is going on around us. I drive the bus of my life around every day, and I have this kind of power. And so do you. Jesus knew this. Talk about someone who transformed the world around him. Jesus drove his own bus, and he made that bus a better place, without a doubt. He is a prime example of how one person, treating people the way he believed the world should be, rather than the way it was, made a huge difference. Jesus treated everyone with love, regardless of their circumstance or station in life, regardless of how society said they should be treated. He didn't do this to stroke his ego. He certainly didn't do it to found a new religion. He did it because he believed it was the right thing to do. The institution of the church that followed after him may not always live up to the standards he set of treating everyone with love and respect, but his message still speaks loudly 2,000 years later. The beautiful thing about living like Jesus and spreading love and joy in this world is that, like a stone thrown into a pond, the effects ripple outwards. The bus driver changed her own world, but she also changed the world of those around her. The people who rode on her bus that day, they walked out changed a little, a few of them with smiles on their faces that might not have been there otherwise. They carried those smiles into the workplace, and they passed along the love. They went home and hugged their children when they might not have done so otherwise. They went to coffee with a friend and told them how much they appreciated having them in their lives when they might otherwise have remained silent. You never know when a little bit of love is going to make a big difference in the world. So I'll ask again, what is the reminder for you to live out your deepest values? What is your "the Messiah is among us" experience? Is it loss, losing someone you hold dear? Is it a profound moment in nature that reminds you of the interconnected web of life of which we're all a part? Is it a serious illness that reminds you of the fragility of your own life? Or is it the birth of a new child, of new life, full of hope and possibility entering the world? The answer is different for all of us. But whatever it might be, whenever it might happen, pay attention. Because the thing is, by treating others as if the Messiah was among them, the monks became happier themselves. And that bus driver, she sure did make the world a better place. And she made it a better place for herself, too. As we celebrate the life of Jesus today, may we act as if the Messiah were among us and find the inspiration to transform lives, our own and others, with love.